By now, we have developed a fairly strong base in functional approximation. We know how to start from a given set of data and construct interpolating polynomials using the forward difference table, backward difference table, divided difference table, or splines, depending on our choice. Going forward, we can use that knowledge to look at this topic of numerical differentiation. We start off with the interpolating polynomial that is constructed based on forward differences. That is why you see the delta operator there. We recall that what we have in the square brackets is a polynomial in alpha. The order of the polynomial is m minus 1. And when you stop with the m minus 1th order polynomial, we are going to incur an error of the order of h to the power of m, where h is the step size or the discretization interval. So the approximate part of f is this, and the residual part of f is this. We have seen these things already. Using that result, let's try to find out estimates of the derivative of the function at x. Let us go on to find out expressions for the first derivative and the second derivative of f as a function of x. Once we have the general expressions, then we can use them to find out the first derivative and second derivative at specific values of x. Now, we may not be interested in the third derivative and the fourth derivative, etc. in chemical engineering because the phenomena of interest to us involves first or second order derivatives, not higher order derivatives. Therefore, we will be content with developing expressions for df by dx and d2f by dx squared. Now first, df by dx. df by dx can be written as df by d alpha times d alpha by dx. We need to do this because this approximation that we have is a function of alpha. It's not a function of x. You cannot see x within the square brackets. Therefore, it makes sense for us to use alpha as the independent variable instead of x as the independent variable. But we know that x and alpha are related. In fact, we can write x as x1 plus alpha h. x1 is the reference point that we use to construct interpolating polynomials based on forward differences. Therefore, we write x is equal to x1 plus alpha h. And if you take the derivative on both sides, you can get dx is equal to dx1 plus d of alpha h. D is the differential operator. And dx1 is 0 because x1 is a specific number from the data table. So dx1 is 0. And we have also assumed that h is constant. And that is why we were able to use the Newton difference table and elements from the Newton difference table in constructing our interpolating polynomials. Therefore, since h is equal to constant, since h is a constant, I can pull it out of the derivative, and therefore I can write dx as hd alpha, which makes d alpha by dx as 1 by h. So df by dx is equal to df by d alpha times d alpha by dx, and df by d alpha is retained here, and d alpha by dx is 1 by h as we just established it here. So we know that df by dx is equal to 1 by h times df by d alpha. That is exactly what we have written here as well. All we need to do is to find out df by d alpha and then multiply it with 1 by h to get df by dx. So what we do here is we are going to keep this 1 by h, right? So 1 by h is there, and whatever is inside the square brackets right here in the expression for f or the approximation of f, I'm going to differentiate it term by term with respect to alpha. So when I differentiate 1 with respect to alpha, that is going to be 0. So this does not contribute anything for the df by dx term. Now, if I take this term and differentiate with respect to alpha, I'm going to get delta. So delta. If I take this term, it's going to be alpha squared minus alpha by 2 factorial and del squared. So if I take this term and expand it, and now I take the derivative of this term with respect to alpha, delta squared is constant, so it will come out. Alpha squared will give me 2 alpha, and minus alpha will give me minus 1, and that is going to be divided by 2. So it's going to be 2 alpha minus 1 divided by 2. And that I can write as alpha plus alpha minus 1 divided by 2, because that is also going to be alpha plus alpha is 2 alpha minus 1 divided by 2. So this term, when you differentiate, you will get this. Alternatively, you can get this by chain rule. So take this alpha and then differentiate alpha minus 1 with respect to alpha. Differential of alpha minus 1 with respect to alpha is 1. So you're going to get alpha. Then you have alpha minus 1, and then differentiate this alpha with respect to alpha. You will get 1. So you can get it as alpha plus alpha minus 1 divided by 2. So whichever route you follow, you're going to get this based on this term. If you differentiate this term that I'm circling now, you're going to get this. Feel free to use either the chain rule or expand it and then differentiate. In either case, you will get the same result. When you come to the third term, if you differentiate this with respect to alpha, so you're going to get delta cube by 3 factorial in any case. So delta cube by 3 factorial, which is 6. So that's there. Now I can apply the chain rule to the numerator to differentiate it with respect to alpha. So if I differentiate whatever is in the numerator there with respect to alpha, so I'm going to apply the chain rule. You can also expand this and then differentiate it with respect to alpha. You should get the similar result. But if I apply chain rule, I'm going to get alpha minus 1 into alpha minus 2. Then I'm retaining these two terms, and then I'm going to do d alpha by d alpha, which is going to be 1. So that is going to be one term, plus I'm going to keep alpha and alpha minus 1 now. So alpha into alpha minus 1, and then differentiate alpha minus 2 with respect to alpha. That will give me 1 as well. So this is going to be one term. And then I'm going to keep alpha and alpha minus 2 and differentiate alpha minus 1 with respect to alpha, which will also give me 1. So it is going to be alpha into alpha minus 1 plus alpha minus 1 into alpha minus 2 plus alpha into alpha minus 2. That is what you're going to get from this term. I've used the chain rule d by dx of UVW, where UVW, or let's say functions of x, is going to be UV times dW by dx plus UW times dV by dx plus VW du by dx. So I've applied this idea to get this result. So in any case, this differentiation has to be done for each of the terms that we see there, and therefore it is going to be a infinite series if you just keep going for the infinite series. Of course, we know our last term is going to be based on this. All right, so it's not going to go all the way. It's going to stop somewhere, right? And f of x1, which is already there. All right, so please understand, I've taken this term and I've differentiated it with respect to alpha to get what you see in the square brackets here. And of course, this 1 by h is introduced because of the differentiation, so I have it there. And this f of x1, I just put it there. So df by dx at this point is going to be this. Again, it's a polynomial in powers of alpha. And now I can get very specific. If I want to find out the derivative df by dx at x is equal to x1, that means at the reference point, I can also represent it as f dash of x1. That means I want to find out the first derivative of f at x is equal to x1. We know this corresponds to alpha is equal to 0. That means if you want to find out the derivative or the function at the reference point itself, we are going to take alpha is equal to 0. So when you take alpha is equal to 0 in this expression for df by dx, you're going to have this term. And in the second term, alpha will be 0. So you'll be left with 0 minus 1 by 2. So it is going to be minus delta squared by 2, right? When alpha is equal to 0, this term drops off. 0 minus 1 by 2 is minus 1 by 2 multiplied by delta squared is minus delta squared by 2. So we're going to have delta in the bracket, square brackets alone, delta minus delta squared by 2. Then when you come here, this term will give you 0 because it's got alpha. If alpha is 0, then this term will not contribute anything. This term will not contribute anything. But this term will contribute 0 minus 1 multiplied by 0 minus 2, which is going to be 2. Minus 1 times minus 2 is 2. 2 by 6 is 1/3. That multiplies with delta cube. So plus delta cube by 6. Then minus so on. So this will keep going forever. Times f of x1. And you're going to have a 1 by h. Let's not forget that. So what I've done here is I've taken this general expression for df by dx. And since I want df by dx at x is equal to x1, that means that alpha is equal to 0, I substitute alpha is equal to 0 in this expression. When I do that, I get 1 by h, and I get delta minus delta squared by 2 plus delta cubed by 6, etc. in the square brackets, and then f of x1. If you continue that until the last term in the square brackets, which will correspond to alpha to the power of m minus 2. Because in the original polynomial f of x, the last term in the square bracket would have alpha to the power of m minus 1. When you take the derivative, the last term in df by dx would have alpha to the power of m minus 2. If you went till that term, you will get this entire expression. What I wrote in the previous slide is only till this. And I just said there are other terms. But here is the expression considering all the terms in the interpolating polynomial. And the error is of the order of h to the power of m minus 1. Why is that? Please note that the residual error was of the order of h to the power of m when we were considering the error in f of x. Now when you go to df by dx, not only do the terms inside the square brackets get multiplied by 1 by h, the residual term should also get multiplied by 1 by h. Therefore, you're going to have the residual error for df by dx to be of the order of h to the power of m by h. This means it will be of the order of h to the power of m minus 1. This is going to be the error in calculating the derivative. And note that order of h to the power of m minus 1 is a larger error than an error of the order of h to the power of m. So this should make sense to us. Now please note that inside the square brackets, the highest power of delta is delta to the power of m minus 1. So if I choose m is equal to 2, the highest power inside the square bracket should be delta to the power of m minus 1. So it should be 2 minus 1. It should be delta. If I choose m is equal to 3, the highest power of delta that we retain inside the square brackets is going to be delta to the power of 3 minus 1, which will be delta squared, etc. So we can choose to retain either one term or two terms or three terms or four terms or all the terms. That's up to us. Of course, if you retain more terms, the accuracy is going to be high, but the calculations are also going to be more because you have to do more processing of numbers, adding them up, subtracting, etc. So that is where the trade-off lies, the computational effort versus the accuracy. So where do we stop depends actually on that trade-off. Now with this, let's try to get to some specific expressions. So if I choose to retain only one term here, that means I am choosing m is equal to 2. So if I choose m is equal to 2, the error is of the order of h to the power of 2 minus 1. So the error will be of the order of h. So that's what you see here. Now, if I stop with the first term, because m is equal to 2, so delta to the power of 2 minus 1 is delta. So we stop with delta. So f dash at x1 is going to be 1 by h delta of f of x1. So delta operates on f of x1, and the error, as I said before, is of the order of h. So it's going to be 1 by h. Delta of f of x1 is nothing but delta of f1. The forward difference operator applied on f1 will give you f2 minus f1. So this is an expression for the value of the derivative at x is equal to x1. So all you do is pick out f2 and f1 from the data set, find out their difference, and divide it by the step size. That will give you an estimate for the derivative of the function at x is equal to x1. And this estimate will have an error of the order of h. The size of the error will be of the same order of the step size. So if you have smaller step size, your accuracy is going to be better. And this expression is rightly called 2-point because 2 points are involved in the calculation of the derivative. So it's called 2-point. It's called first order accurate because the error is of the order of h. So it's first order with respect to h. So it is called first order accurate. And this is a forward difference approximation for the derivative at x1. This is one expression for the derivative of the function at x is equal to x1. An estimate of the derivative at x is equal to x1 may be obtained by retaining not just one term but two terms in the square brackets. I'm able to use this expression because we are still at x1, and at x1 alpha is equal to 0, and this expression was obtained by using alpha is equal to 0 in the general expression. So if I retain the two terms there, so m is equal to 3 because the highest thing is delta to the power of 2. Delta to the power of 2 comes with m is equal to 3. So with m is equal to 3, the error is going to be of the order of h to the power of 3 minus 1. It's going to be of the order of h squared. That's the first thing we note. So order of h squared. Now in the square brackets, it's going to be 1 by h delta minus half delta squared f of x1. F of x1 is nothing but f1. So it's going to be 1 by h delta of f1 minus half of delta squared of f1. So this is going to be equal to 1 by h. Delta of f1 is f2 minus f1 minus half delta of f2 minus f1, because delta squared f1 is delta of f1, and delta of f1 is f2 minus f1. So I can write it as delta of f2 minus delta of f1. So this is going to be equal to 1 by h f2 minus f1 minus half delta of f2 is f3 minus f2 minus delta of f1 is going to be f2 minus f1. So minus f2 plus f1, because minus of minus will become plus. So it is going to be 1 by h, and then what you see here is minus f1 minus half f1. So it's going to be minus 3 by 2 f1. Then for f2, it is going to be f2 plus half f2 plus half f2. So it's going to be plus 2 f2. f2 plus half f2 plus half f2. So 2 f2 minus half f3. So I can take 2 in the denominator out. So I can write it as 1 by 2h minus 3 f1 plus 4 f2, because we have 2 f2 here. And if you want to take 2 outside, because this term and this term has 2, I'll make this as 4 f2 by 2 and then pull the 2 outside. So plus 4 f2 and then minus f3. So that is what you will get. And that is what is written here. So what we have here is this expression for f dash of x1. It serves the same purpose as this. But please note here the error in estimating f dash of x1 is of the order of h squared, which is smaller than the error here. This is a smaller error. So that is why this will be preferred. Of course, here we have to do more calculations because you have one extra term inside. This was just based on 2 symbols. This is now based on 3 symbols. So you get an extra computational load, but you get improved accuracy. Please note that this is going to be 3-point. Why? Because it involves F1, F2 and F3. So this is a 3-point method or a 3-point expression. It is second order accurate. SOA means second order accurate. So this was FOA, first order accurate. This expression is second order accurate because this is order of h squared. The truncation error is of the order of h squared. So it's second order accurate. And it is a forward difference approximation because it was based on deltas. Now, if you wanted the first derivative computed at x2, x2 is alpha is equal to 1. Alpha is equal to 0 is x1. So if you want x2, then you should use alpha is equal to 1. What I do is I go to this expression and put alpha is equal to 1. So when I put alpha is equal to 1 in this expression, this goes off because alpha minus 1. So 1 minus 1 is 0. This will go off. This will go off, but this will contribute. So I'm going to get 1 by h delta plus alpha by 2 delta squared, and alpha is 1. So 1 by 2 delta squared. Then 1 times 1 minus 2. So it's going to be minus 1 by 6 delta cube. So minus 1 by 6 delta cube, and so on, so on, so on. You can see that this is different from this simply because we are choosing different values of alpha. So when alpha is equal to 1, that means we want to find out the derivative at x2. Then we get this general expression. So you can stop after the first term, or you can stop after 2 terms, or you can stop after 3 terms, etc. The choice is ours. So here is an example with retaining the first 2 terms in the square brackets. That means retaining delta and delta squared by 2. So if you do that, you get this expression. And the error is going to be of the order of h squared. Why? Because it is going to be of the order of h to the power of m minus 1. And when you retain 2 terms, m is going to be equal to 3 because you're retaining till delta squared, and that delta squared comes from the highest power of delta in that square brackets, which is delta m minus 1. So if delta squared is your highest term you retain, that means you're going till m is equal to 3. So when m is equal to 3, m minus 1 is 2. Therefore, the error is of the order of h to the power of m minus 1, which is order of h to the power of 2. So this is going to be second order accurate. Please note one important point. This is still going to be fx1. That doesn't change because from x1, if you go to alpha is equal to 1, you will reach x2. This is still going to be x1, right? So that is something that we should not forget. So if I use this expression 1 by h delta plus delta squared by 2 f1, because fx1 is f1, I'm going to get 1 by h delta f1, right? Delta f1 is f2 minus f1 plus half delta squared f1. Delta squared f1 is going to be delta of f2 minus delta of f1. Delta of f2 is going to be f3 minus f2 minus delta of f1 is going to be f2 minus f1. So minus of minus there will become plus. So this is what we're going to get. So this is going to be equal to 1 by h. We are going to get minus f1 plus half f1. So it's going to be minus half f1. And we're going to have f2 minus half f2 minus half f2. So it will be 0 f2. So f2 is not going to be there, interestingly. And it is going to be plus half f3. So if I pull out the 2 in common from the denominator, I can write this as equals 1 by 2h minus f1 plus f3. Or I can write it as 1 by 2h f3 minus f1, which is what you see here. So this is going to be a 2-point estimation, therefore 2p, because it involves only f3 and f1. It is second order accurate because the error term is of the order of h squared. And it is called central difference approximation, because to find out the value of the derivative at x2, you are taking the value of the function at x3 and at x1. The value of the function at x3, which is f3, and the value of the function at x1, which is f1, are being used to compute the derivative at x2. So you're looking one step forward, one step backward, and you're pulling that information and you're calculating the derivative at x2. Therefore, this is called a central difference approximation. So CDA is what is called central difference approximation. The previous expressions were forward difference approximations, because if you look at the answers, this one involves the use of f2 and f1. So you're here, you're trying to find out something at x1. You're making use of the information at x1 and you're making use of the information at x2, which is f2, in order to compute this. So you're looking forward. Therefore, this becomes forward difference approximation. Again, in this expression, we are looking at f2 and f3 and f1 in order to compute f dash at x1. We are not looking at points behind. We are looking at points forward. So that is why this is called a forward difference approximation. And I also previously mentioned we used forward difference operator. So that leads to forward difference approximations. That is not surprising. But here, even though we used forward difference operator, the result came out to be a central difference approximation. So we can derive a lot of these expressions if we wanted. And such expressions are cataloged in textbooks and on internet sites, etc. So we can pick up anything that we want. And as I mentioned before, it's going to be a trade-off between accuracy and the computational load. A sample list of expressions for finding out the first derivative at x is equal to xi is given here. You will notice that this is a forward approximation. This is a backward approximation because it uses I and I minus 1. So this is backward difference approximation. So this is BDA. Whereas the first one is forward difference approximation, FDA. This one, I plus 1 and I plus 2. Therefore, forward difference approximation. This one, we are still computing the derivative at x is equal to xi. But the indices used are fi minus 1 and fi minus 2. So we are going backwards. So looking for information. Therefore, this is a backward difference approximation. This one is central because it looks at I plus 1 and I minus 1. So this is a CDA. What about the last one? You don't see I there. You see I plus 1 and I plus 2. You see I minus 1 and I minus 2. So this one is also a central difference approximation. It is a 4-point approximation because 1 term, 2 terms, 3 terms, 4 terms. So it's 4-point central difference approximation with accuracy being order of h to the power of 4. Very small compared to the other things that we see. Others are order of h squared and order of h errors. High, okay, low. But the one with low error has more computations. So that is the compromise I am talking about. So in the next video, I'll present the results when we go for computing the second derivative. Thanks for your time.